And we will get into talking about the widget control panel. So I'm going to navigate to my demo site here. Just a clarification of some terminology. A widget is just this little, or it's a WordPress term that refers to these little blocks of content that basically build your home page or the body of your home page here. So I can see I've got several different widgets on my home page. I've got this one on the left. I've got this carousel here. As I scroll down, I can see different widgets for primarily categories on my site. So features, news, entertainment, but also widgets can display other content as well, such as the sports score carousel that I have here. So again, all of those blocks of content that build the body of your homepage are what we consider widgets there. One other thing, just to clarify before we take a look at how you can customize your widgets, is that this is considered design work on your site, which means that only users with the administrator user role are going to be able to access the widgets and the widget control panel. That said, I am going to actually first talk a little bit about your site's design options before we look at the widget control panel. And to get to those design options, as well as to get to the widget control panel, I like to hover over the SNO dashboard tab here in the upper left-hand corner. And here I see design options and widget control panel as drop downs there. So I'm going to click on the design options. And the one area that I do just want to talk about within your design options is this site designer tab here. This is where you really kind of see a blueprint of your entire homepage layout. So this is going to include the header area, the footer area, and the homepage widget areas here in the center. That's what I'll be kind of focusing on for today's webinar. We did have a webinar earlier this week all about the header and footer design. So if you're interested in learning more about that, send us a support ticket, let us know, and we can send you a recording of that webinar. But for today, we are talking all about widgets. So I want to talk about this homepage widget areas. The homepage widget areas refers to basically the configuration or the available spaces that you have on that body of your homepage to place different widgets. So for instance, if we look at my homepage widget areas, I can see I've got a home top full width, and it does not currently have any widgets in it right now. Then as I move down the body of my homepage, I can see I have a home top left and a home top right area. The right area is much more or is much wider than the left. And I can see I have one widget in each of those areas. So again, if we look at my homepage, I can see there's that home top left, home top right, and the right, excuse me, spans a little bit wider than the left there. As I continue to move down the home page, I'm going to see those different widget areas. So I go back to a full width and then 3 columns and then back to a full width again. So again, as I scroll down, I can see those widget areas there. This is where you would go if you wanted to reconfigure any of those available spaces for your home page. So for instance, maybe instead of having my home top right area here, as wide as it is, maybe I want to make these 2 columns a little bit more equal in width. I can adjust the width of these widget areas by just placing my cursor on that white border there and clicking and dragging. And I do have to, if I make any changes here, make sure that I click on Save All Design Options. So I'm going to go ahead and do that up at the top here. And now I will see if I refresh my home page that those 2 columns are much more equal in width. And I don't love the way that that looks, so I'm going to put it back to how it was. But again, you can adjust the width of your widget areas here. You can also rearrange where those widget areas are located. So let's say instead of in the middle here, I want these 3 columns to be up a row or up a space. I can grab these arrows on the left, click and drag to move some widget areas. And again, I'm going to click on Save All Design Options there in the corner. Now, if we refresh, I can see those 3 columns have been basically reordered with this widget area below. You can also add or delete widget areas here. So if I wanted to, let's say, add a full width area to the bottom of my site that would be available for widgets, I can add a row here. If I wanted to split that row into columns, I can do that using the gear to the right and add multiple columns. And I will be prompted to name each of those areas that I create. And my recommendation is to always name them according to the space that you are placing them in on your site. So for instance, if I was adding this widget area to the bottom of my home page, I would probably name it something like home bottom full width, and done there. So you can add new widget areas here, and then you can also delete widget areas. So for instance, I'm not using either of these columns. I can come in here, hover over it, and delete those unused widget areas as well. Now, one note about that, you are not able to delete widget areas if they have widgets in them. So if I tried to delete this home middle left, for instance, it is not going to allow me to do that because I have widgets currently in that space. I'm going to go ahead and save. That is everything to know about the site designer. And again, I think it's really important to know how this functions before we take a look at the widget control panel, just so you can kind of see how the layout of those widgets is determined and how those spacing or the spaces that the widgets occupy is determined here. So that's it. I'm going to hop into my widget control panel next, and I can get there again by hovering over the SNO dashboard tab in the corner. And then it is the third drop down for the widget control panel. Now, what I'm going to see on the widget control panel, on the right, I've got all of my different available widget areas on my site. And these areas are going to correspond with the areas that we just saw in that site designer. So home top full width, I can see that I don't have any widgets in that area, which matches or correlates with what I just saw in the site designer. Home top left, home top right. If I click on these areas, it will expand and show me the widgets in each of them. So there I can see that each of those widget areas has one widget. And then as I continue, I can see all of the rest of the widget areas on my site, including that home bottom full width, that new area that I just added, and it does not currently have any widgets in it. But it is now available for me since I've added that widget area, should I choose to add more widgets or add any widgets to it. So that is what you're seeing on the right here, are all of those widget areas. Some other things, other widget areas that you'll see over here on the right that you don't set up in the site designer. If you have the site booster installed on your site, you will see an area called Sports Center Sidebar. And that is going to be the widget area that shows up on the right of your scores and schedules page. So again, if any of you have that site booster, you will see that Sports Center Sidebar widget area. You will also see the non-home sidebar widget area over here, which by default, that non-home sidebar is used on pages on your site. It is also by default used on the single sidebar template. So if I open up a story that is using the single sidebar template here, I can see that non-home sidebar over here on the right. So you'll see that widget area there. I also have a secondary, or you might have a secondary story sidebar area here. That would be by default the sidebar that is used with the new dual sidebars template. So over here on the left. And then lastly, over here, you probably see a widget storage area, which I will talk about that a little bit more later on. So again, those are some different widget areas that you might see on the right over there that you did not, or you would not set up in the site designer. On the left, I've got all of my different available types of widgets that are available for me to use and display on my site. It is kind of a long list of widgets here, so I think that it's helpful to note that the widgets that you will use most often are kind of up at the top of the list here. It is kind of purposefully organized. And in particular, the widgets that you will use for your category-based content are going to be these four up at the top that are labeled with story. So we've got the SNO Story Carousel, the SNO Story Grid, SNO Story List, and SNO Story Parallax widget. The rest of the widgets here are used for displaying other types of content on your site. So for instance, if you wanted a list of trending stories, or if you wanted to add an advertisement or a countdown to something, if you wanted to embed a video or something else that you created elsewhere and got an embed code for, if you wanted to add a poll to your homepage or a list of sports scores. So again, there are a lot of different widgets to choose from. The 4 at the top are going to be the ones you use for content and stories and categories. So that said, there are a couple of things that you might want to do in here, starting with editing your existing widgets. So let's say I am looking at the news widget here, and I want to make some edits to this existing widget. To edit a widget, I'm just going to click on it here in the widget control panel, and it is going to open up all of my editing options for that particular widget. And what you're going to see, that was a SNO story list type of widget. So when I click on that, I've got all of my editing options there. Each type of widget has a different set of customizations and edits that you can make. So if I click on a different type of widget, let's say the SNO story grid, again, I'm just going to click on it to edit it. I'm going to see a different set of options and things that I can customize with the design of this one. Versus, again, if I click on a different widget, like the SNO story carousel, different set of options to play around with and customize here. So each widget has its own kind of set of customizations. I would say one of the main things that you might want to do when you're editing widgets is change the category that is displayed in that widget. So again, going back to my news example, maybe instead of news, I want my opinions category to show up here. So I can click on that widget to edit it. And in this first column, I am prompted to select the category that I would like to display in that widget. So maybe I want to switch that to opinion and save. And now if we refresh the home page, I can see that widget is displaying my opinion stories rather than my news stories. So like I said, that's probably one of the most common things that you will edit in your existing widgets would be the category that is displayed. But you can also edit things like number of stories. You can edit a widget style or kind of the appearance of the widget here. There's different options for text size, background color, padding, spacing, all different kinds of things that you can kind of play around with and customize there. So that is editing existing widgets. To add a new widget to your site, it is kind of a 3-step process. The first thing that I always do is choose the widget area, or kind of select the widget area where I want to add that widget. So in this case, I'm going to use my home top full width area here. Once I've done that, I'm going to select the type of widget that I want over here on the left. So maybe I want to do a carousel. And then I am going to click and drag that widget into the desired space. So I'm going to grab that carousel, click and drag it over to that home top full width. And as soon as I drop a widget into a space, all of those editing options are going to pop up for me to choose from. So again, each type of widget kind of has its own set of edits and things that you can do to set it up. So maybe for this carousel at the top of my site, I am going to do my news category. I want it to scroll through 5 stories. I want to make the headline a little bit smaller, headline size a bit smaller. Maybe I want to show the byline and the date, and then I want to bump up the photo area height, make it a little taller. Maybe I also want it to scroll every 6 seconds. So I can get in there and customize it how I want. Once I've done that, I can save. And now if we take a look at my home page again, up in that home top full width area, I can see that new carousel widget that I have added there. So that is the process for adding a new widget in the widget control panel. Again, select the area, select the type of widget, and then click and drag that widget into that area and set it up however you'd like. Again, if I wanted to edit that news carousel, maybe I don't like the way that it looks, I can just click in and make my edits from there. I will say for some of these widgets, whether you're editing them or you're adding brand new widgets, you can make a perfectly good widget just with these basic design options. But I can also toggle on the Show Advanced Design Options button here, and that will give you even more things that you can play around with. So I would say if you're feeling pretty comfortable with widgets, you can go ahead and show advanced design options and kind of try some of those out. If you're newer to widgets, I would probably stick with the basics just until you get the hang of things, and then you can try showing advanced design options. But as you'll see when I toggle that on, some new things pop up for me to customize and control there with the widget design. If I need to rearrange a widget, if I want to move the location, this is all click and drag. So I can just grab that widget, move it to the space that I want. I'm going to put this one in this home bottom full width, that new area I created. And if I drop it, we refresh my home page here, I will see that widget in that new area that I have designated for it here. So again, you can click and drag those widgets and place them in whatever areas you want. Lastly, if I need to remove a widget from my site, you have a few different options for that. Option number one, if I totally want to just delete it, I can click and drag over to the left. And as soon as I drop that widget, it is deleted from my site. So now if we go take a look, if I refresh my homepage, I can see that that carousel widget that I had is no longer visible on my site, and it has been removed from the widget control panel. The other option for removing widgets would be using this widget storage area. So let's say I want to, for now, remove this widget that has these story page templates. I can click and drag and move it into that widget storage area. And if we refresh the home page, I'm going to see it is no longer visible there. But within that widget storage area, it's going to hold that widget, store it for me with all of the design options that I've selected. So if I want to go add it back later, I can grab it out of that widget storage area, click and drag it to the space that I want, and then it will retain all of those design options that I have set there. So that is kind of the basics of the widget control panel and how it works. Again, you've got all of your different available widget areas here that you can customize and set using that site designer. And then you've got all of your available types of widgets that you can select from and add to your site here on the left. I will say that in the coming weeks, we will be doing, let me go back here. We will be doing webinars on specific types of widgets. I know I think this Friday, I have one coming up on the snow story list widget. Next week, we'll be talking about carousels and grids a little bit more. So definitely be on the lookout for those future webinars if there is a particular type of widget you're interested in learning more about. But hopefully that gives you a little bit of an overview of how widgets work and how the widget control panel works on your site. That is all I have planned for today's webinar session. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to share those in the chat. I'm happy to answer those. Otherwise, thank you so much again for joining me this afternoon. I hope that was helpful, and have a great rest of your day.